All right, hello, how are you? Hopefully you're doing well. This is our flip video lesson for 5.03, Age of Innovation. You do need to make sure that you have your student guide with you and you have your Human Odyssey book with you as you do in every class. It is up to you outside of class time to make sure you have your Human Odyssey book read. That is the hardback book. You do need to have read pages 559 to 571, this book right here. So you'll need to do that either before class time or after class time. Make sure you have that done for every lesson. And then we will be working in your student guide today during class, so make sure you have that with you. You'll be working on pages 351 to 353 during this flip video, and then we're going to have some discussion and talk more about it when we have our live lesson. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So your lesson objectives, and again, many of these objectives are covered in detail in the readings. During our class time, we don't have enough time to cover everything in detail as it should be. So it is up to you to make sure that you are doing your readings on your own time. And if you have any questions about that or concerns about that, let me know. Remember, they are audio recorded, so you can read them on your own, or you can listen to the audio recording, which is posted on your Padlet, and it is also posted in your lesson. So, if you just don't feel like reading that day, or some of the words are kind of hard and you want to listen to it, you absolutely can do that. And remember, you can also download the Padlet app onto your phone, your iPad, so you can listen to it while you're driving the car, or listen to it, outside of your regular class time on your regular class computer. Okay. So the lesson objectives, what we're going to be talking about during this lesson. You're going to be able to describe the advances in fuels in the late 1800s. Describe the evolution of the bicycle into the automobile. We're going to explain how steel led to a second industrial revolution. And remember, we've already talked about the first industrial revolution. You're going to be able to identify Alexander Graham Bell and his accomplishments, Andrew Carnegie and his accomplishments, identify Guglielmo Marconi and his accomplishments, and then you already know a lot about Thomas Edison, but you'll learn hopefully a little bit more about Thomas Edison and some of the accomplishments that maybe are not so well known, like his invention of the light bulb. Okay, so those are our objectives. So just an introduction of the lesson. Age of Innovation. Can you imagine life without electricity or cars? How would our daily routine change if we did not have them? Many of the conveniences we enjoy today have their roots in the innovative work of people in the late 19th century. The wars to unify Italy, Germany, and the United States had ended, and people were looking forward to the future. They wanted to rebuild their countries and enjoy peace and prosperity. Henry Bessemer and William Siemens made breakthroughs that made it possible to make large quantities of steel cheaply. Cheap steel triggered a second industrial revolution. It changed the way people built everything from buildings to motors and transformed our way of life. Okay, so that's just kind of an introduction of where we're headed with this lesson. So steel sparks a second industrial revolution. Iron is strong, but it is hard to shape and can crack relatively easily. Steel is lighter, stronger, and more flexible. When Henry Bessemer and Charles William Siemens figured out ways steel could be produced cheaply in large quantities, they sparked the second industrial revolution. Remember, we had that first industrial revolution where we had a lot of immigrants. We had a lot of those really, really poor working conditions. So this kind of sparked this second industrial revolution. So manufacturers built bigger factories with more powerful machines that could make more goods. And builders could erect taller buildings, and railroad workers could build better tracks. So there was a lot that could be done with steel during this second industrial revolution. Petroleum played a huge role in this revolution as well. People looking for new fuels to run their factories and heat their homes saw promise in petroleum, a liquid material found beneath the ground. Petroleum was superior to coal and wood because petroleum could be processed into gasoline and kerosene, which were easier to transport and burn more easily. And please note, you should be filling in notes in your student guide as you go along. Okay, there are spots in your student guide where these should be filled in. Please make sure that you are doing that. Here's a quick picture of that. Okay, all right, next question here, or next slide I should say. Inventors and innovations. So Thomas Edison called his research and development lab the invention factory. And if you look on here, Thomas Edison is on page 352. Make sure that you are filling in your chart for Thomas Edison, okay? And there'll be more on him here in a second. Henry Bessemer. So Henry Bessemer was based in England, born in England, and his innovation was he had this special furnace that could turn iron into steel. And what was the purpose of it? Because he could produce steel more cheaply, or cheaper. And he helped to spark a second industrial revolution based on that steel, which is what we talked about in that previous slide. This invention of steel, or this special furnace that could turn iron into steel, made things much quicker, made things more reliable, and so it kind of sparked this whole new revolution of industry. So Charles William Siemens, and again, on that chart, make sure you're filling in your student guide, okay? Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. So Charles William Siemens, he was from Germany, and he invented a process for making steel into a gas furnace, or in a gas furnace, or not into, but in a gas furnace. And what was the purpose of this? Again, to produce steel in these large quantities. The quicker they could produce it, the larger quantities that they could produce in, the more effective things could be. And what was the impact of that? Steel was used to build railroads, tall buildings, and powerful machines. So being able to use this steel in a new way definitely helped to move things along as far as industry and technology went. Okay. All right. So next is Andrew Carnegie. So Andrew Carnegie was born in Scotland, but he lived in the United States. His innovation was he brought iron ore deposits. Bought iron ore deposits. He ran steel mills and railroads, and he used ships to transport the materials. So that was a huge convenience and way of moving his product. What was the purpose? Again, to make and sell lots of steel easily. So you'll see that that indicator there. They were trying to produce products, make things quickly, get things out, get things to people so they could move the process along. And what was the impact? By producing so much steel so efficiently, he helped the United States become an important economic power. So that was Andrew Carnegie. Samuel Morse. Samuel Morse was born in the United States. His innovation was the telegraph. It used electricity to send messages over vast distances quickly. And then by the 1870s, there were telegraph offices all across the United States. And there is so much more on Samuel Morse in your book, so please make sure you are reading those required readings, okay? Just simply not enough to cover during this flip video lesson. We will cover a little bit more during the live session, but definitely make sure you're doing your readings. All right, Alexander Graham Bell. You can see his innovations there's not even all of them listed here. He was born in Scotland. Again, he lived in the United States. He and Thomas Watson invented the telephone. Bell and his father-in-law, Gardner Hubbard, started the Bell Telephone Company. His other inventions included this device that was used to remove the outer husk of grains of wheat. He created methods to record sounds. He created a method to detect icebergs with echoes, and a method to make water out of vapor. So a huge spectrum of what he did. What was the purpose? To communicate quickly over long distances. And then by the 1890s, phone service existed in the United States and Europe. So, imagine time without phone. And this was not even cell phones. This was like a phone in your house. So Thomas Edison, another huge inventor, place was the United States. More than 1,000 inventions, including the electric voting machine, which is, obviously significant during this election year for sure. Improved the stock ticker, which was an invention factory, or research and development lab. Invented the light bulb. Again, way more on this in your reading. So please make sure that you are doing those readings. It's super important. The electric company phonograph to record and generate sound. And then one of the first movie cameras. And then the purpose was, although Edison is most famous for inventing the light bulb, he was constantly striving to fix or improve something. And what was his impact? Obviously, we don't even really need to read this, but his impact was huge. He established this concept of a research and development lab, which is now common practice. He used many corporations to develop new products. Electric companies all over the world, and people use electricity to light their homes, run their businesses, listen to music, watch movies, et cetera, et cetera. He had a huge impact. Jean Lemoire was from Belgium, and his innovation was the internal combustion engine. He wanted to find an alternative to the steam engine that would be more practical and easier to use. And we learned about the steam engine in the first industrial revolution. And then the impact was the development of the internal combustion engine meant that engines did not need to be near a constant supply of water and coal or wood to burn, which was huge. It led to the development of automobiles and other machines, which again, as we're moving forward with technology, we're certainly gaining a lot of information and knowledge. Gottlieb Daimler and Wilhelm Maybach. So Gottlieb Daimler and Wilhelm Maybach were from Germany. They invented the motorcycle by mounting a small, safe internal combustion engine on a bicycle. They made a gas-powered four-wheeled vehicle. They used the internal combustion engine to create more efficient vehicles. And what was the impact? The creation of the motorcycle and one of the first automobiles revolutionized transportation and changed society. And again, please make sure you are filling out this chart, okay? As I'm going through this, make sure you are filling out your notes, okay? It's super important that you have those in. All right, Carl Benz. Carl Benz was from Germany. He made a gas-powered three-wheeled vehicle with steering wheel and brakes. His purpose was to use the internal combustion engine to create more efficient vehicles. And then the impact was some people consider Benz's vehicle the first automobile. The automobile changed society. And we're going to learn more about Carl Benz and kind of the debate with he and Henry Ford as we move forward with innovations and in the Industrial Revolution, second Industrial Revolution. Guglielmo Marconi was born in Italy, and he lived in England. His innovation was the wireless telegraph, the aerial radio antenna. The purpose was to send messages anywhere, even to or from moving ships, which was a huge invention. Messages could be transmitted over very long distances. Other scientists figured out how to send music and voices through radios. And again, so much more on him in your book. So it's super important that you have that reading done. All right, so here we come to the end of our flip video lesson. We are going to now talk about page 353 in our student guide. It's innovations, inventors, and get it up there on the camera there. Inventors and innovations. So please make sure you have that out. We're going to talk about some of the discussion questions. How did steel spark an industrial revolution? People were looking for new heat. They found promise in what? Why were petroleum and coal, why was petroleum superior, better than coal or wood? Thomas Edison's lab, what did he call it? And then, in your opinion, which innovators or innovations contributed the most to the development of the late 19th century? And then be ready to support your idea with facts, questions, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to talk about that now in class. So thank you very much for watching the flip video lesson. And yeah, we'll get ready to start class. Thanks for joining me.